And boom, monkeys, we are live. We're back here on the Crypto Boogie channel. A lot of shit has occurred since I've been away for about a week or two, especially with the Pulsechain launch. I wish it had gotten a little bit smoother, but nevertheless, a majority of us that were Hexicans prior to the launch of Pulsechain were pretty much in profit, especially if we sacrificed for PLSX or PLS. Unfortunately, when I got into the HEX ecosystem, or when there was a sacrifice phase for Pulsechain, I was still trying to figure out Shiba Inu. So, hey, I still swapped out some of my eHEX, or I'm sorry, some of my PHEX for some Pulsechain. I'm glad about that. At least I got some PLS. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? And we've already got somebody here from Mexico. Happy Silver. ¿Qué pasa, amigo? ¿Qué dice? So, today, what are we going to cover? I've got some interesting charts to show you guys, some things I wanted to show you on the bridge, and a little bit of Zen stuff, because I also mess with Zen, but I'm more of a Hexican than I am a Zenian. So, without further ado, let's get into the charts. Let's see what we got. We're going to start it off with BTC. Vamos a comenzar con la moneda que se llama Bitcoin. And this is currently the Bitcoin chart as of today. We're working on the daily. Let's check it out on the 4 hour. I haven't checked it out on the 4 hour, see how it's doing. I like seeing the volatility a little bit. So we dipped a little bit and we got a little bit of a dog. If you see this right here, this line right here, that's a little bit, and then it pumped up. That's a little bit of a bear flag. So then we went down, we went back up. But there's not too much data that I can use here on Bitcoin. Now, let's go to the daily. So BTC, what do we got on BTC? Of course, we had this doggone symmetrical triangle. Usually when you get these symmetrical triangles, you'll bounce inside the triangle. You'll either go to the upside or you'll go to the downside. I'm assuming that the reason that we've gone to the downside is because Congress, the Senate, and the President have not agreed on a new debt ceiling. From what my understanding is, they want to raise a $31 trillion debt ceiling. If they do that, I'm expecting the crypto markets to pump. Things are a little bit different in the Senate and the Congress now from compared to what it used to be. There's a lot less rhinos on the Republican side, not taking sides to either party. So they're having a little bit more of a struggle trying to agree on things. That's why the debt ceiling hasn't been raised. We've got approximately 10 days so that debt ceiling gets raised. I think they're going to agree upon something. They always do, for the most part. I know that Congress forwarded some bills over to the Senate to raise a debt ceiling, but there were some things in that bill which the Democrats hated, so hence why they don't want to sign off on it. But enough with politics. Let's get back to the BTC chart. As I was saying, usually when you get the symmetrical triangles, you either go to the downside or the upside. BTC currently on the RSI is at about 1132. Let me see if I can make this a little bit larger for you cats. So we're down here in this area. We were a little bit overheated over here. I think it was around, yeah, this is in January. So over here, we're still a little bit of the downside. Not a bad time to buy BTC. I personally think we may end up pumping up, especially with the stuff I'm going to show you right now. I think we probably will go to the upside. Let's see how the EMA ribbon's doing with BTC, and this EMA ribbon, with these conglomerate of lines are acting as a form of resistance, preventing Bitcoin to go to the upside. Now, this yellow box here, you see this giant yellow box here, it represents the accumulation of candles in certain areas for BTC, which serves as a form of support. And you see this giant trend line down here at the bottom. You'll see why I put it there momentarily when I show you the weekly. So let me show you the weekly, cats. Turn off this Bollinger Band. And if you see BTC, if you check out BTC, we've got these areas of support here and here. Now, the interesting thing is if I zoom out, you could see where BTC has been trending on this trend line. It's been bouncing on this sucker. Of course, I've got my support resistance all up in this area, but it's been bouncing for the most part on this support line. Now, you're probably wondering what this little box is over here. In here, we got a morning star. Usually when you get a morning star, that means you end up pumping to the upside. I'd have to go deeper into the box, give you more details on that. But if you look it up online, you can see what a morning star is, and you'll see how it's usually very bullish. Vamos a ver, vamos a ver. Now, what was the alpha I wanted to drop on you cats as far as BTC goes? Let me show you a different screen. Now, this is a different type of screen here. This is a different chart I've got. And this is, you can also see this on the weekly and the daily, but it's more evident on the daily. Now, you're probably wondering what this is. We went up here, came down into this doggone wedge, and we're going to the upside, and now it's going in a downward fashion, a little bit like this. Bear with me, cats. A little bit like this. See that? And we're coming down. That's what you call a cup and handle. For the most part, when you get a cup and handle, we usually run to the upside when that occurs. Not always, because there is market manipulation, just like in anything else. But if you study technical analysis a little bit, you'll pick up on that. That we've got a little bit of a doggone cup and handle going. So let me go ahead and get this removed. Well, let me show you something else. Let's check out the HEX chart. See how HEX is doing. And you cats want to know something funny? I was telling my boy that since the Pulsechain bridge is so clogged up right now that it really doesn't serve much purpose. I mean, it'll serve purpose if you go ahead and you try to bridge over some DAI or some USDC. But by the time you get to the other side, you've got all these other people that have got money pending. So you'll probably end up catching a little bit higher freaking values on PLSX, on PLS, or on PHEX. So I was telling my homie that one of the best things to do, one of the best options that you've got is to buy eHEX. And let me show you why. If you see the HEX chart, it came down all the way into this area down here. And if you put it on the 8-hour, you can see it's been ascending in an upward fashion. So if you had put your USDC or your DAI down here, you'd actually be at a minor gain. So when you do end up bridging over freaking PHEX over to Pulsechain, eHEX over to Pulsechain side, not only will you have more buying power, I mean, you won't have to use USDC, which doesn't have as more buying power. You can end up using eHEX to have more buying power. And you can end up buying tokens at a better value because you ended up bridging over eHEX over to the PHEX side. Now, let's see how that did. Let's check the price range on that. We hit this bottom here. I'm not a big fan of measuring wicks, but if you catch it from down here and you go to the upside, we're up what's that? It's giving us a measurement of about 48.19%, give or take. And if you had bought at the recent bottom, and that was on May 17th, about 3 days ago. Now let me show you this so you guys can, something else I noticed about this. Let's go to the daily. If you see this here, it's forming up, it's going in an upward fashion. Again, we could possibly be forming that cup and handle again. and then we'll come down this way, and then we end up pumping up again, which I think will probably end up happening. So I think eHEX is a good buy right now, especially if you're really anxious about buying stuff on the other side when you bridge your tokens over. Why not buy eHEX? Know what I mean? Jelly bean. Buy eHEX. Once the bridge gets unclogged, swap it over to PHEX side, and then buy whichever tokens you want, and you'll be a little bit more powerful. Of course, don't do your entire bag. Just do a small portion. Do like 20% of your bag of the purchases you wanted to make on Pulsechain side. So let me show you, cats, how some of the tokens over on Pulsechain side are doing. Well, first, let's check out the chat. Still got Happy Silver here. Let's start off with HEX. Let's see how HEX is doing, or better stated, PHEX. We're using Deck Screener because obviously this is not on TradingView. I did a little bit of measurements. This is on the 1 hour chart. I really don't like doing charting on the 1 hour chart because there's not a lot of data on here, and it's way too volatile to give you accurate data, but we have been going to the upside since initial launch. Now, if you don't measure this giant wick up over here, see this giant big ass wick over here? We did a gain of about 790%. And I measured it from the top, from the low down here, all the way to the top of these candles over here. Now, if you want to measure the wick, then yeah, it's 1109%. But it's very rare that you end up catching wicks like that. You got to be on your phone. You got to be on your freaking computer all the time. A lot of us work. So a lot of us don't get the chance to do that. So I wanted to show you guys the HEX chart. Let's check out the other charts as far as the other tokens go on the Pulsechain side. StreamYard. Nellyville 23. ¿Qué pasa, amigo? See that you just dropped in, man. We're covering a lot of the tokens on Pulsechain side. If you get a chance, try to watch this video a little bit earlier. I got a little bit of alpha for you if you end up want to bridge some tokens over. You may end up getting stronger by doing this strategy, so check it out when you get a chance. So we covered PHEX. Let's check out how PLSX is doing, which is one of my favorite tokens. Really one of the only tokens I got the sack for as far as Pulsechain goes, because by the time I got into the HEX ecosystem, this was the only option, but I'm glad I made this option. If you see this chart here, we've pumped a total of what, about 1,042%. You caught it here on the downside, and we're still climbing up. Again, this is a 1 hour chart. This is a 1 hour chart, not a lot of data, but let me show you something I'm already seeing. Again, we're starting to get that cup and handle. You know what I'm saying? And if you research the cup and handle, it usually means we're going to the upside. I'm expecting this sucker to pump hard. Now, when people ended up bridging some tokens over to the other side, everybody and their mother was dumping PulseX. You had the whales fighting over PHEX, and you had the HEX community fighting over freaking Pulsechain. But everybody and the mother was ignoring PulseX. And that's where I capitalized. And I took advantage of freaking getting PulseX because everybody was dumping for the other tokens. The way I understand it, this has got a buy and burn feature. Anytime there's a transaction done on the PulseX website, it ends up burning some PLSX. So it's pretty bullish. And what I've learned from this token, it is 100% deflationary. So it's not a bad token to hold. I mean, if you got a good about 100 million of these tokens, it's very possible by 2025 you could be close to becoming a millionaire with this token. Not financial advice. None of the stuff that I'm giving you guys is financial advice. But this is one bullish ass token that I like a lot. And while the Hexicans were fighting over PLS and you got the whales fighting over PHEX, I was focusing on this sucker. I was filling up my bags of doggone PulseX. Let's check out the other tokens. Let's check out the other token, son. Vamos a ver. Vamos a ver qué sigue esto aquí. Yeah, guys, I do intend to do a stream en español. No he tenido mucho tiempo para hacer un video en español. He estado medio ocupado. Pero al rato les hago un video. Así como yo sé que mucha raza hablan el español más que el inglés, porque el inglés es el lenguaje que aprendieron segundamente. Vamos a ver. Vamos a enseñarles el Pulsechain. Vamos a enseñarles el Pulsechain chart. Dame un momentito, raza. Give me a quick second. I'm going to frickin' take a quick water break real fast. I've got a little bit of a frickin' scratchy throat. I'm still here. I'm not gone. Aquí estoy todavía, amigos. And I'm back, monkeys. Let's get the sucker presented. ¿Dónde estábamos? Where were we at? Where were we at? Vamos a ver. Present. We're going to look at the Pulsechain chart. Vamos a ver. Wrapped pulse share. This is the Pulsechain chart. Let me just make sure you guys can see this. Quiero asegurar que lo están viendo. PLS burn. Yeah, we're seeing this. Now, this is the Pulsechain chart. Let me see. Where the hell is it at? There it is. Now, I drew up this trend line under the Pulsechain chart because, dude, it's been bouncing on this freaking trend line. It's probably going to keep going to the upside. It's pumped a total of about 689%, measuring it from the bottom to the top. This token is hella bullish. I remember Richard Hart saying that this sucker could do a 14,000x. So yeah, I'm stacking up my bag and with some of the liquidity pools that I'm using. I'm filling this sucker up. In a moment, we'll go over that and I'll show you guys about the liquidity pools. So much information I want to cover. It's just doggone. There's never enough time in a damn day. You monkeys feel me? ¿Me entiendes, Mendes? Now, we're going to look at this page. Richard Hart shared this on his Twitter. This is the PLS burn. If we go down here, we can see how the bridge is doing. So far, we've processed about 50% of the transactions done on the bridge. It says here we've processed about $53,421,584. And there's been a deposit of about $107 million. On average, when I try to bridge over some DAI, I try to bridge over some USDC, I try to bridge over some freaking doggone eHEX, it takes about 48 hours to get across, give or take, exactly on the dot. Some other cats are saying that they're getting it there faster. Hey, if you're going to bridge some stuff over, cool. I still don't know yet if the stable coins on the Pulsechain side are stable or not. I don't know if they're fluctuating or not. I haven't had time to do research on that. But just be mindful of that. Once the bridge does get unclogged, I intend just to bridge stuff over gradually from freaking Ethereum over to Pulsechain. That way I don't get wrecked. Even though I got to pay those extra gas fees, so be it. If any of you guys were here last bull market, you remember those $120, $150 transactions we had to do for every damn purchase of HEX we made. Hopefully this fixes that, and I think it probably will, which will lead us into our next topic, which is Zen. And as to why the doggone freaking gas fees have been running up so high on Pulsechain, which if you really do the math on it, it's not that much because every Pulsechain is less than a cent, give or take. So yeah, as that stated, we've done about 50% of the freaking transactions. They've crossed the bridge, and we've got 107 million overall total. We've only processed 53 million, so a little bit over half. Vamos a ver aquí. Present, share screen. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you cats the incentive token. See how the incentive token is doing. For a while, I think the incentive token is actually the most valuable. And look how it's running to the upside. Comenzó aquí el incentive token. It started down here. It ran up down this way, went up. It did a little bit of a friggin' doggone cup and handle, came down, and then it pumped up, came back down again. And I'm assuming once the liquidity pools went live and people really started doing liquidity, we started getting this giant green ass candle. And we pumped down, and it looks like we're going back up. Right now, the value of one incentive token is about $30.44, which is an awesome way if you know how to mess with liquidity pools. Now, I fool around with DeFi Kingdoms, and I fool around with Spooky Swap and Phantom. So I'm used to the liquidity pools. One thing that the HEX community hasn't really had experience with, unless they're doing other tokens aside from HEX, is the liquidity pools. So let's say you buy, bear with me. So as I was saying, let's say you buy some USDC, or let's say you buy some Ethereum, and you go ahead and you pair it with freaking HEX, and you got them together. Miguel's explained this before. Shout out to him. And you've got HEX that's pumping. So since you bridge both tokens together, or since you've put both tokens in a liquidity pool together, they're both the same value. So whatever amount of tokens you need to match the amount of Ethereum you have in that pool, they have to be this exact same amount in value. So if one token pumps, let's say HEX is pumping, what ends up happening is when it starts pumping, it starts selling its tokens, and it starts dumping it into Ethereum so it can come back into balance. So if HEX dumps, what happens? You start selling more Ethereum to bring up your average in HEX. So you could run the risk of impermanent loss. If you are participating in liquidity pools, I would highly suggest that you keep your eye on that shit. Don't just leave it there and forget about it. You got to keep your eye on that stuff. Check it twice a day just to verify that you're not getting wrecked or you're losing too much on one side. I hope that explanation of liquidity pools made it easy for you cats. Now, let me show you the liquidity pools. Well, let me show you Pulsechain first. And we're currently here on Pulsechain. These are the liquidity pools. Not what I wanted to show you, but since we're here, why not? So if you end up bridging these tokens, or if you end up putting these tokens together, you end up getting like a 41% APR, give or take. A lot of people like this one, the HEX to Ethereum HEX. So this is basically PHEX to Ethereum HEX. Current APR rate is at about 725, give or take. In a moment, I'll go ahead and switch over to PulseX, and you'll see what the ratios are between PHEX and eHEX. And it looks like they're almost at parity. So these are not bad liquidity pools. Again, as stated, you got to keep your eye on this shit, because if you don't, you could end up getting wrecked. So now, stable coins. A lot of cats see a shitload of APR with stable coins. You got to be careful with the stable coins, because remember, one side is always freaking stable, while the other side is fluctuating to the upside and to the downside. So a lot of times you end up freaking dumping your tokens into USDC or DAI, depending on what you got it on LPs. Now, I do know that DAI in itself is, that token on the Pulsechain side is more liquid than USDC. I know that over on Ethereum side, USDC was more liquid, but for some odd reason, Richard chose to do DAI. Hey, so be it. DAI is what it is. Now, let me show you cats what I was talking about. Oh, mind you, I forgot to mention, these suckers pay you out in incentive token. That's what they pay you out in. So whenever your shit freaking starts pumping here, you can end up harvesting it, and then you can end up swapping that incentive token for whichever the other token you want. You can get PLSX, you can get Pulsechain, or you can get PHEX. Any money I'm bridging over I'm trying to put a little bit more money into freaking PulseX. Any money I make from here, from the liquidity pools, I end up dumping it on Pulsechain. But I do not intend to stay in the liquidity pools forever because you will get wrecked. You got to keep a close eye on this stuff too. So I showed you cats. Let me show you cats the exchange. Now this is the PLS or the PulseX exchange. If you flip this over and you click here and you add HEX, it says HEX. That's really PHEX. And then you come down here and you click on this sucker, it says HEX from Ethereum. When you end up bridging it over, or you can end up swapping some of your eHEX, it'll give you the average. All you got to do is press 1 up over here, and you can see that 1 PHEX is equivalent to about 0.84 of an eHEX for the most part. So again, they're almost at parity. So this is not a bad liquidity pool to do, by the way, either. Or you can end up bridging over some of your eHEX and getting some of the PHEX. But some of the mistakes that I've seen some of the Hexicans do, they've actually ended their freaking stakes, got a massive penalty on go.hex.com, and they ended up trying to bridge it over only to find out that it's a 3-day wait or a 2-day wait. So before you make moves like that, I would really freaking stand by. I would stand by and I would wait for the freaking bridge to be unclogged before you start messing and fooling around with stuff like that. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover here today was Zen and why the gas fees are a little bit high. Because I also mess with Zen. Let's see, stop screen and present. Share screen. And if we come over here, this is where you make your Zen NFTs. Let me see if this sucker's working. I was acting stupid earlier today. So let me see if you cats can see this. This is how you mint a Zen NFT, basically. And this is so usually I get the collectors because these you can end up freaking liquidating for Zen. And I usually get the Centurions. And if you hit this sucker, there it is. Your MetaMask pops up, and then it'll tell you how much the gas fees are. Now this is 128 VMUs, which is basically 128 wallets that you're printing in one wallet. So you end up getting a shitload of Zen. Currently, to process a whole VMU at max is about 151,000 Pulsechain or PLS, give or take. Now, every time you end up trying to get his NFT, you end up burning Pulsechain, which is very bullish for Pulsechain. So not only do you have PulseX burning for Pulsechain, but you also got Zen, or you got Pulsechain being burned for Zen. So, man, this is actually a good feature. I like it. A lot of Hexicans are pissed off because of the gas fees. But if you really run a number crunch on this, it ain't that expensive, because even though it's 158,000 Pulsechain tokens that you got to do in order to get some of these NFTs, it's less than a cent each. So it's not a bad deal. I've got a couple of Zen NFTs. Unfortunately, freaking doggone Jack Levin, when he launched freaking Zen on Pulsechain, he had actually put a timer on Twitter. And then this sucker ended up freaking doing it earlier than expected. And a lot of us got to the party late. It is what it is. I still managed to get some Zen NFTs. From what I hear from other Zenians, they were saying it was maybe 10, 12 pulse to get one freaking Zen NFT at max VMUs. I missed it, but it is what it is. We can't have it perfect all the damn time. Now, check this out. I'm going to show you one more thing before I take off for the day, monkeys. See if I can answer some of your questions, too. From what I understand, currently Bitcoin conference is going on, or Bitcoin Miami, or whatever the shit that's called. And Jack was out there. And he made contact with a couple of Hexicans. couple OG hexagons. And this is the stuff I like to see, man. See, they're not beefing. They're still cool. You got Funding Jim over here. You got RG3 on this side, and they're choking out the freaking Vampire Jack. I mean, all three of them are hexagons. It is what it is. And that basically covers it. You guys got any questions? ¿Algunas preguntas que tienen ustedes, amigos? And like I said, I do intend to do a stream in Spanish. Just haven't had time. And I also intend to do some gun videos because I'm a freaking gun nut and I love to go shoot. So Nellyville, what are you up to, man? ¿Qué dice, amigo? Yeah, I'm still standing by on the freaking webinars Miguel and Charlie's doing. I think they're out in Bitcoin Miami, Miguel and Charlie. Shout out to those cats. Learned so much from them fools. Learned a shitload from those cats. All right, cats. That covers it today. Be careful with some of your freaking doggone liquidity pools. Be careful with your bridging over. And just have fun in the HEX ecosystem. Mark down this day, or mark down the day that Pulsechain launch, because you're going to see a lot of millionaires up in 2024, late 2024, 2025 from this ecosystem. So, all right, guys. Peace.